All right. So tell me about your morning this morning.
So my morning, I try to do the same thing every morning, especially since the start of COVID. I try to have a pretty strict routine. So I wake up, I'm not on my phone for the first 2 hours of my morning. I do at least 30 minutes of yoga. I do like 10 to 20 minutes of breath work. And then I do like 10 to 20 minutes of meditation and then journaling. So that was my morning. And then I spent the rest of my morning reading. Right now, my job stuff is on hold until January. So I have a lot of time during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent my morning reading, and then I'm going to head to the gym after this, actually. So that was my morning.
Oh, nice. You realize I don't know if you know this. Like, I've known you for like over 10 years. Like
I know.
Franklin was like over 10 years ago. I was trying to do the math. I'm like, okay, I was in eighth grade. You were in sixth. That was damn near 2008, somewhere in there.
I know. We've known each other for a long time.
Like I'm just like, man, am I getting old or what? But
20s are young. I feel like that's what I'm still learning. Our 20s are actually so young. And
right,
I feel like I'm starting to change the narrative, because I feel like so much of the narrative we've been giving is that when you're young, it's the best years you're ever going to have. And
mm-hmm.
like as you get older, it just gets worse. And I'm actually like, I feel like things are just going to get better as I get older. I feel like you get more wisdom. I feel like you cultivate more self-trust. You just dabble more in the quote unquote real world, and I feel like you gain more experiences. So I'm like 20's young. I'm here for getting older. I'm ready to get older, and I'm ready for the wisdom. Yeah, I feel like 20 is so young.
Yeah, no, like it is, but I'm just like, man, like to think you know somebody for like over 10 years is like, wow, that's a long time.
It's a
Especially
beautiful thing.
like looking back on, it, I'm like, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I would honestly say like a lot of the close people, the people I'm closest to, are still from like Franklin and the Wash days, which is
Yeah.
yeah, which is I feel like a lot of people don't get a chance to experience like some of their closest people still being from high school.
Absolutely. I think it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I've known you for 10 years. I still keep in contact with several people that I've known,
Right.
gosh, since I was like 12 or 13. And it's a special bond, to be close to someone or talk to someone that has seen you evolve, like has witnessed your evolution.
Right. Right.
It's very cool, even if you don't keep that close contact all of the time. Which, long-term friendships, I think it dabbles in and out of close contact and distance and whatever. But it's very cool to say you've known someone for that long, and to have been a witness to their own evolution, which I can say for you, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you can say for me as well.
100%. And people are
Yeah.
probably wondering who I'm even talking to right now. Today we have Emily. Today, someone I've known, like I said, for over about 10 years now, and I've definitely seen like
Mm.
develop into like this like poet,
Will
wisdom,
stop.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can keep going and going. But I was just curious, like, so what, like, people that don't know you, um,
Mm-hmm.
what's like kind of like your background? What led you to this point? Like, where are you from? That kind of whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Like your
Yeah,
story.
sure. So I was born and raised in Cedar Rapids. My parents separated when I was really young. So there was a time my freshman year of high school that I went to Oregon. That wasn't the best experience. I think just going there still in high school, it was difficult. The transition was very difficult for me. So I ended up moving back to Cedar Rapids to live with my father my sophomore to senior year, and then graduated and went to the university. Um, I studied philosophy and psychology at the university. I actually took a year off during university just to kind of explore, I think, questions that I've been asking since I was really young. What's my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning of life? Kind of heavy questions, but I really thought about these things since I was really young. And I took time off in the university because I felt just lost and confused and like, what am I doing? And is what I'm doing have any purpose, any meaning? Does it give back to the world in any way? So I took some time off during my time at university to kind of explore those questions, which I feel like was the best decision I ever made. I got a lot of backlash from my family, but I trusted my intuition, and it was one of the best choices I think I ever made. So fast forward now, I graduated. I definitely live a lot more purpose-filled life. I think I work at the neighborhood centers of Johnson County and Iowa City, which serves under privileged populations, predominantly kids. And then I also work at the crisis center in Iowa City, which serves the homeless and people going through mental and emotional crises. So I can definitely say that so much of my background cultivated a drive to live with purpose and to live in service. And that's something that I try to remember every day. When I meditate or say a prayer at the end of the day, I try to ask the questions of how can I live with purpose and how can I live in service to other people. And I think all of my background leads me to that point. And I hope that this moment leads me to deepening that too, of living in service and giving back. Yeah.
Are these some of the questions you were asking yourselves during your break, or like when did
I
these questions start to like break from university, or when did these questions start to develop?
I think I was asking them at a really young age.
Mm.
Um, what's the purpose? What's the point of what we do? What's the point of being here? And I think it hit a like a peak point at my time in university, where I think I had been doing, I had just graduated high school and kind of just living a life that we're told to live. And I think the questions hit a peak where I was like, wait, what is the point of why we live this way? What is the point of this kind of linear path? And trying to assess, is this something that I feel like has purpose and meaning for me? And so definitely during my time off in university, absolutely, I was asking those questions hardcore because I wanted my life to align with the deeper parts of me.
Mm.
I didn't want to just more surface levelly move through the world. I wanted to feel like I was living a more authentic life, and I think those questions led me to that.
That's awesome. Yeah, because
I
you
hope
kind of
that answers your question.
no, it does, it does. Like so, because you're kind of like me. Like I definitely took a break from school because I was like, I felt like
Yeah.
I was just kind of seamlessly going without an actual like ending point. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I felt like I was
Yes.
just doing what everybody says, checking the boxes, but like living purpose less rather than like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And then eventually when I finally went back, it was so much more like, okay, I'm focused, I'm ready to get this done type of deal. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not to say that people who don't take time to question that are doing it wrong, or need to take the time. But I think everyone has their own individual journey. And absolutely, I think some people hit that point where they have to take a step back and think, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And is this something that I feel like truly aligns with who I am? Deep down. Yeah.
why do you
There
feel like, oh, keep going?
No, go ahead. I was just going to say they're difficult questions, but they're crucial, I think.
I was like, why is it so like untaboo or so like frowned upon to take a break from school? I feel like it
Um,
is. Like, I mean, you said it yourself, like even family gave you criticism for it. I got criticism
yeah.
for it. Like people, oh, you just gonna drop out and not like no, I'm just taking a step back to
Yeah.
realign my goals.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say for sure. I can
Hmm.
only say what my opinion is or what I
Yeah, of
think. And I
course.
think it's just we have a tradition. I mean, I think it's multiple things. But I think we just have a certain way things are, and I think anything that questions the status quo can be seen as a threat.
Right.
And not a threat in some horrible way, but just it causes other people who maybe live in the status quo to question themselves. And so I think it just can bring a lot of insecurity and question and threat to what's normal, quote unquote
Hmm.
normal, and what's quote unquote acceptable. Um, and so yeah, and I think a lot of, personally speaking, the backlash that I got from my family did raise those insecurities,
Right.
of parents or grandparents who had lived their life a certain way and had that expectation that I was to do that too. And if I didn't, what did it mean about the way they lived their life, if that makes sense?
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and again, it's like no shade to my parents or grandparents who lived that way, because everyone just does what they have to do in the moment to
Right.
survive with the information they had. Um, but yeah, I think it can be untaboo or taboo, because I think anything that challenges the status quo can be met with a lot of resistance, a
Mm.
lot of resistance. And sometimes I think the journey to uncovering your deepest, most authentic self, which oftentimes, like you said, requires you to take a step back, can just be met with so much resistance,
Right.
internally and externally. But it doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. But the resistance is there.
Yeah.
It's there.
What was like your hardest? Your hardest. Who? I'd say you said your parents were your hardest critic. Like, why were they like? You need to go back now, or like what? Like what kind of
It was my
criticism?
it was my mom. My dad was a little bit more nonchalant, but my mom, I think, and to be honest, I think mm, I've had wavering opinions about why I think my mom had a certain response. And she was upset at me. She said, "I can't believe you're not going to school. I'm really disappointed. I'm really upset."
Right.
She thought I was just making the wrong decision. And at the time, I thought, you're just mad because you couldn't do it. You had kids at this point, you had to go to university. But now I look back and I wonder if it was more of, my mom knows how difficult I think moving through the world as a woman is. And I think for her, she
Mm.
thought, you need to go to school and you need to be financially stable and you need to make
Right.
sure
Right.
you're in a
Right.
position where you can set yourself up and be good. And to her, that looks like going to school. So I realize now that a lot of it was probably, she's hard on me because she wants me to thrive and survive, um,
Mm.
especially as a woman. And I think she knows the toughness that women face moving through the world. And so now I can think a lot of it was probably tough love.
Like kind
I
of
still,
like I want you
yeah,
to do better than what I did type of.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations about it now, and she goes, "I'm glad you made the decision you made. I'm glad you trusted yourself." But in that moment, it was difficult. Yeah, she definitely had apprehensions to my taking time off. Yeah.
Man, it's crazy how much like you're kind of similar to me. Cause like I've
Mm,
definitely bumped heads with my mom a lot. Even to
yeah.
the point where like I would say I didn't. It causes a little bit of trauma, and I didn't recognize it
Mm,
until like later on in life. So
yeah.
that's the kind of like man. But it's not like my mom's a bad person or anything. It's just I love it. Yeah,
No,
I just know she was doing what she was raised to do pretty much.
absolutely.
How do you like?
I
How do you
think
even
it's,
break that chain?
yeah, I mean, I think that's where the 20s can be so difficult, and why, again, I will say that I think with age, we just get more wise and better.
Hmm.
Because I think the 20s are the process of individuation and cultivating your own identity separate from your parents. But so much of that is recognizing that, like, what your parents did isn't about you. It's, they had to do and say what they needed to do and say in that time with the information they had. And I think breaking that chain, like you're saying, is realizing it's not personal, it's not about you. but still tending to the hurts, like you said, the trauma that can be experienced, because it can also be so real. The hurt and pain that can be caused from parents' resistance or not accepting to certain things that we do. Um, but yeah, I think breaking that chain is just a part of becoming your own individual and realizing your parents are also human,
Right.
which is just so, it can be really confusing,
Mm.
because you can
Yeah.
still have pains and hurts. Um, and then it's like you have to tend to them in your own way as an adult now. So it's a tumultuous trek. But
Did you guys ever have like any friction that was like for me personally, like I can only speak for myself. Like it seemed like every time I got in the same room with my mom, most likely an argument was about to like burst out until I had to like tell her why everything was going
mm,
on. I was curious if have you experienced that at all?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing up, in my teen years, I think everyone as a teenager has friction with their parents. So definitely as a teenager. And I'm so curious. I mean, you say it was you and your mom, and it
Hmm.
was as a man and a woman. And then me and my mom as a woman and woman. I'm really curious the dynamics of that too. And how it could maybe differ in some ways. But absolutely, when I was a teenager, my mom and I had friction.
Like when you were in
As
Oregon, or
when I was in Oregon, and then even younger, yeah, definitely. And then as we've gotten older, we have a really stable and solid relationship that I'm very grateful for. Um, but yeah, the tension was definitely there. I think it's so normal though. I think the tension with parents can be so normal because again, it's this process of becoming your own individual to
right.
someone who gave you your life, and it's just so complex and can be so confusing and really tumultuous at times where yeah, you're like butting heads. So yeah.
What do you think healed that between you two?
I think for my mom and I, a lot of it was me having space. And maybe that sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but it's what worked for my mom and I, is me having my own space to develop who I am and then coming back together as kind of two whole adults. Um, and not like this, she's always going to be my mom and she's
Right.
always going to be there for me, but it's a lot of angers and pains and resentments that I had to let go of, and that I also needed acknowledgement from her with too. And it's a work in progress, still healing that, but I think it's me allowing myself to have my own space,
Hmm.
to kind of hear myself and be my own person, that helped us come together in our relationship more closely. Yeah.
So when you start making this transition to your own person, around when did you start seeing that kind of change happen? From like, I don't know, your typical morning routine, like early college, to now like 2 hours with no phone, the meditating, the book. Like when did that start and how did that start?
I think I've had in me, and I have memories at a very, very young age, because I grew up with, maybe most people have a similar experience, but with just tension and chaos in the home sometimes. And I grew up at a very young age with this understanding that I have to be responsible for my own life.
Hmm.
And it was actually, I was like 7 or 8 years old that I had my own routine at night. I developed it. And so that's been, that's been with
Okay.
me. It's
Okay.
been with me at a very young age, this deep knowing that I have to be responsible for my life. If I'm going to make things happen in my life, I have to be the one doing it.
Right.
Um, and so that started at 7 or 8, and my family sometimes gives me crap, my siblings, because I had a shower time that I would shower like at 7 or 8. I'm not kidding. um, so it was there, and then it slowly developed and developed and developed. I think, going into college and I started working out, that became huge into my routine.
Right.
When I was 22, my relationship with God changed in the most positive way, which transformed my routine in terms of eating healthier, meditating, prayer.
Right.
So I think it's just expanded. That belief and that knowing I had when I was really young, it just expanded more and more. And the more I learned about, oh, this is something that could be helpful, I'm going to add it to my routine. Or I like the way this makes me feel, I'm going to change my routine to have that happen. But I think the process of changing your routine and adjusting and adapting is lifelong. I think it's lifelong, but I think it comes from the foundation of knowing I'm responsible for my life, and where I am in life is a direct result from how I'm moving through my day and what routines I have set throughout my day.
One thing I'm really curious, I'm pretty sure everybody
Yeah.
else is, where'd the 2 hours no phone in the morning come from?
I recently just started doing this. I mean, even within the past few weeks, I am an extremely sensitive person. And I noticed it's just, I think, gaining a deeper and deeper awareness of what I feel when I do certain things. And I
Okay.
notice when I wake up and I look on my phone first thing, or even first 30 minutes or hour, I don't like the way it makes me feel. I feel overstimulated. I feel like my mind isn't, I don't know, grounded. So I realized I need to have my morning be with me. I want to be with myself. I want to be with my body. So I do yoga. I want to ground myself in presence. So I do my meditation. I want to be with intention. So I pray. I want to have gratitude. So I do my journaling and my gratitude. And that's how I want to start my day.